All right, I'm going to do a quick check here. Let's move over to the actual event. So I'm going to move on here to our official screen. All right, for those of you who are joining us, thank you very much. My name is Mike Carlo from Power BI Tips. This is an event we do last 3 months in a row here now. We're going to do MVPs talking about the Power BI releases. We're really excited about this this month's release. It's a little late, if you may have noticed. So we're very happy it's finally here. We're ecstatic that it's going to be here for us to enjoy. We're going to talk about that, and I think actually there's a lot of announcements at Ignite that are also worthwhile for us to talk about. I know a lot of the MVPs are kind of following along with that as well. So we're also going to have some MVPs, if they want, chit-chat about stuff that's going on Ignite. This video will be recorded and will be out on YouTube later on if you missed it later. So you're probably already watching the recording if I'm already saying that. So let's get going here with the group here, and we'll do a quick audio check here at the beginning. I'm going to go to the chat window on YouTube here, and I'm going to request if anyone's there, can you hear the audio? We'll do a little audio check. All right.
I was hearing yours when I was logged in, so.
Oh, excellent.
On YouTube.
Well, at least that means my microphone's working.
There we go.
Was it last time you guys were working and I wasn't working? I'm not sure if that was. Okay, can you hear the audio? Okay. Let's just say, can you hear the other MVPs? All right, you guys, Reid, take it away. Give us your little spiel or something. Do an introduction. We'll see if we can hear you.
Yeah, Reid Havens over at Haven Consulting. I think I've been to all of these now, right? Each one?
Yeah, you've been all three.
Okay, I just have a bad memory sometimes, but yeah, I'm super excited to be here for this. Talk about a lot of the cool stuff coming out for Power BI, and I, similar to you, Mike, lean on the visualization side pretty heavily, and I'm pretty excited about some of the new stuff that just came out recently and was previewed at Ignite for new visualizations and features.
Excellent. Daniel, this is your first time on the MVP React session here. Please give us a little introduction. Give us some details. Where are you from? What are you all about? Give us the run through.
Okay, yep. So Daniel, I'm based in New Zealand on the South Island now. I've just moved house in the last week, so I'm currently sitting in an empty house that's very echoey. So I apologize if I'm coming through like that.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Just waiting for the movers to bring everything in today. In terms of Power BI, I've been using it since it started up, and my background is mostly, to begin with, was with the data warehousing, data modeling side of things. When Power BI came along, I moved very heavily into visualization. So I like the whole piece, but I've been focusing my attention mostly in the last few years on improving visualization within Power BI and developing custom visuals. I have my own little, look at that, that's lovely.
Custom visuals.
I have a little consulting company called Pachuvo, and I partner up with Alice at Discovery AI as well.
Well, this is a great transition. So Daniel, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you joining today. I'm excited for all your insightful things about custom visuals. If you haven't seen them, I got to give them mad props. Daniel has done some incredible visuals that are actually out on the app source, and one of them is the HTML viewer, which if you haven't played with it, is it right? Oh
yeah, I've got some
more
news on that a bit later if we've got time.
Okay, later there'll be more news on the HTML viewer. But if you haven't played with it, I know that there's versions of it happening and coming out now. Awesome tool, very well done. I played with the original HTML viewer. This one will blow your stinking mind. It's so phenomenal. So excellent tool. Daniel, thank you for joining. Transition over to Alice. Go ahead, give us a little introduction. Where are you from? What are you all about? And we'll get you going.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. I'm Alice from Melbourne, Australia, and I've been using Power BI just for a couple of years now. So I've transitioned from the environmental engineering space into Power BI. As soon as I saw it, it blew my mind. It was amazing. I was playing around with it one weekend. I was like, wow, I just want to use this all day, every day. So
sounds good.
I'm definitely a fanatic, but I love, like Reid and Mike, love all the visualization space. Really kind of the front end user experience.
Now, Alice, you have your own business all around Power BI and the water space for just Power BI reporting, right? Is that kind of the business that you guys are running?
Yeah, definitely. So me and my husband Christian, we co-founded Discovery AI about 1.5 years ago now, and we're really trying to bridge that communication gap between the kind of water and environmental professionals and then the data analytics as well. So
love it. So again,
really nice sweet spot.
This is a platform for the MVPs to shine. Alice has amazing business. I love what she's doing with the whole company. Great visuals. Reports are amazing. So definitely check her out. send me a link and I will drop it in the chat. I'll go pull a link. I'm gonna go pull a link and put it to your company there on the chat window as well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so that we can get it out there.
Yeah.
Benny, welcome. First
Yep.
time joining. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Give us your little your stick and your spiel, and welcome to the show.
Yeah, really happy to be here. It's the first time I'm actually here because it's 11 p.m. my time. I'm in Western Europe.
Thank you for staying up late with us. We'll give you extra coffee for tonight.
It's Ignite this week. It's Ignite, so I'm up anyway. But I'm coming from Belgium. I work as a senior data insights consultant, which means that I do BI stuff, not just Power BI. But I've been rolling around with Power BI ever since its inception, and even when it was just the good old Silverlight plugins in SharePoint and Excel.
Oh man, you're going way back there.
Yeah, I
Silverlight.
do have to admit to full shame that I actually haven't done any report development for about half a year or so. I keep spending my time in admin portals and doing all those kind of stuff.
Excellent. Yeah.
Doing any report development. Yeah.
Not yet. We got to get you on board with that. So we got to get you back in the report space.
I'd love to do it. I just need to get customers that want me to do report development and not tenant admin stuff.
You heard it here. You need report development. Benny's in business.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. All right. So just kicking things off with some general conversation. We just kind of open discussion this thing. We're just going to talk about the release for Power BI Desktop. It was a little bit late this month. Typically, they're out around the second week time frame. That seems to be when the releases happen. This week was a little bit delayed, I think, because of Ignite. So any key features that anyone picked up on or things that they're really interested to talk about?
I mean, one of the small things that I think all of us as developers really appreciate, like less from the user perspective, but just the fact that we can search for a workspace when publishing. Like, I mean, for me, it's not that bad. I have a few dozen workspaces, but you work with enterprise when there's literally like, you have shared with you hundreds of workspaces and it takes you 3 minutes to find it every time. Like that is painful. So it's such a small addition, I feel, but like that has such massive payoffs.
Huge. I would also agree with that. That's
massive.
A really big change for me. I do. Yeah. And previously, if organizations adopt early, there's a bunch of old SharePoints and old sites that are kind of still hanging around there. So you're either trying to turn them off or get rid of them. But in lieu of that, though, there could be hundreds of different workspaces that you may be seeing when you get into PowerBI.com. So that's a big win. I like that a lot.
Yeah, you saw a lot of companies heavily adopting Teams a few months ago, and that exploded to Power BI workspaces. You kept seeing it, customers.
That's true. Yeah, really true.
People didn't even know that they were being created.
No.
It's amazing. So I'm going to put a big plug in there for smart narratives. I haven't played with it a ton yet, but I really like it. So the smart narratives has kind of been around for a little while. There's actually another version of this that is it's open sourced for not open source. It's a custom app, and I can't remember the name of the company that did it. Narrative Science, I think it was the company, and they have their own kind of narrative science kind of version of this. But I really like this thing. It makes a lot of sense, and I got to be honest. Back when I was in analytics world inside Excel, I spent a boatload of time working with a bunch of business people, and we said there's got to be a way for us to automate how to just text, right? Pick out the key indicators, figure out what's the highest points, the lowest points, what percent changes are the biggest, and just kind of run generic analytics over top of some numbers or a table frame. And we actually wrote in Excel, much to our chagrin, with a lot of if statements and a lot of fluctuation. We basically built a narrative science kind of thing, or a smart narrative thing, but now it's already built into the tool. So I've been developing this thing for a while. It's much better that it's in Power BI now, and this is real true AI inside the tool. I really like this one. Have you guys played with it?
Totally. Yes, I've been using it just for a couple of days since it's come out. It's perfect for a project which I'm working on at the moment, developing really a kind of community-focused Power BI report.
Sure.
And people who aren't used to working with Power BI, they don't really want to, they don't trust themselves to interpret the key insights. But as soon as you see that written in plain English, in text on a page for them, then they can suddenly make all of these kind of connections between the data. So I think, especially when people aren't so used to reading graphs or tables or pulling out the insights, having it written in just literally there on the page, it's so valuable. And I don't know, I think one thing to be aware of, but you really have to make sure that you name your kind of columns and measures in plain English. Otherwise, the results it spits out
could be a little bit weird. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
The linguistics model also does a very similar thing. If you look for weird column names or concatenated or shorted abbreviated column names, you have the same kind of problem. The model doesn't know how to interpret those things as well. That makes a lot of sense.
And that actually is, I would say, a good mention to even within I think it's the last 6 or 7 months where they added that option to set primary row label in your model in Power BI, which helps to even further improve the linguistic schema. So when you type in, I want to see customers' sales data. If you set the primary thing to customer name, it's automatically going to assume you want to display customer name, which will help both now the narrative and all the Q&A stuff.
Cool. Yeah, Benny, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, it's those kind of features, the AI features, they always look nice in demos, but you're actually working on a data set, a real life data set. How does it work on not pristine data sets that aren't necessarily 100% clean?
Oh, the man's here. So we have to do that. Hang on. We'll definitely get your question real quick. Yeah. Hey, Seth, welcome to the show. Welcome. We just quickly did introductions. Seth's been working on stuff. I said, Seth, you got to make it. This is going to be a good one. So Seth Bauer here also from Power BI Tips. He's also joining the call. So let's go back to Benny's question real quick. So Benny, you said, talking about how do you make narrative science work on, you need really rich, clean data sets for any kind of smart narratives to work. Other MVPs, I'll just kind of throw that out there. How do you guys address that, or how do you handle having good, clean data so that something like that would work well for a reporting scenario?
Well, when you say clean data, do you actually mean as far as the configuration and naming conventions, or do you actually mean the data itself? Because
I think it goes further. It goes further than that, because you probably know as well, if customers have data, it's probably some Excel sheet they have somewhere, and then some forgotten database and those kind of things. And yeah, it's always something that I wonder myself. And I know that the visual in itself is pure magic. It's how good does the data have to be to actually get decent results from it? That's what I wonder.
I think honestly, it's either yes or no. It's not clean to me. It's kind of, there certainly are gray areas, but I try to achieve 100%. Like let's say you have customer location, and if every single if there's multiple customers that have multiple locations, and and that data has not been cleaned up, it's either clean or it's not. Like you can improve towards it, but if you still have errors in it, I would still put that in the bucket of it's not being cleaned up yet. Like with any of my customers, I don't ever settle on, outside of very rare scenarios, like 95% clean with few errors in there. I work to make sure that we can get to it has been cleaned and processed. And you display something on the axis, you're not going to get 15 different spellings of Seattle. You will get one. It's been cleaned up now at that point. So if the effort goes towards cleanup, there's no stopping that. Outside of like actual physical or environmental reasons, you can't fully clean it up until it's all the way processed and normalized to actually display correctly and aggregate.
Yeah, and I think when you're starting out, just keep it as simple as possible. So you could summarize with smart narratives. You can do it for the entire report page, or you can just do it for one visual. You can review it as well, so you can edit if it's giving out kind of weird results. You can change the text, you can tweak it, you can make it your own. Cool. So it's really just trying to put into words the visual you have on the page, I think.
Yeah, agreed.
I think this is helpful, especially when people read things. We do a lot of work around not picking a pie chart and picking bar charts and highlighting which data point is the right point. And I think this is another tool in our arsenal for us to really pick on, allow some AI pieces to kind of pick out what are the key pieces here. Because sometimes we just need to read, which category had the highest rate of return, or which category sold the most. I think this is very relevant for our reporting pieces. Excellent. I would say this. I have one comment around the data quality piece. And again, this is not for every company, and depending on how fast you want to move, I think Alice has a great approach to just start easy with a couple columns, a couple pieces of data that are clean. I probably can't throw this thing across the entire data model. But I would say this. I have done some reporting where we needed to have good quality data throughout the process. And so I actually built Power BI reports around the data that's coming into our report and made sure that information was good. Because if you think about data quality and having good quality, if you kind of looked at a graph, you could kind of make an exponential curve, and then 100% data quality would be very expensive all the time. You would never really get there, and there's always going to be introductions of people, and they always make dirty data at some point. And so you'll always have this level of cleaning, scrubbing, making the data good again. So when I talk with clients, I always talk about how important is it for you to have that really rich, cleaned data? And what's the threshold of that, right? So how much money are we willing to spend in order to make sure that we want to have 100% of the clean data, or maybe 90% is okay? Hopefully, narrative science is picking out the key, the big parts, right? Some of this little not clean data will hopefully make it there as in our reports. But I think I always try to take the approach of there's actually you probably need to build reporting around the quality of your data. And that way business management can figure out if it's good or not. Mark, excellent background. I see you dropped in with the cow and dolphin thing going on. Welcome. Welcome to the show. Appreciate you jumping in. Don't worry about being late. I said there's no issue there. Hop on in, jump on in the call. Mark was with us the last two MVP Reacts as well. And Mark, where are you working out of? You're late in Europe, right? Somewhere, right?
Yeah, in the Netherlands.
In the Netherlands, that's right.
For me, it's the same time as for Benny. So.
Oh yes. So welcome to the show. Thanks for jumping in.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me again. It's always good to be here.
So any other observations for people for this month's release?
Maybe you already discussed it, but one of my favorite things, and maybe one of the most requested things even, is the search box in the publishing dialog.
Yes, actually, that was our first comment this time. We were so enthralled with the fact that we can search for things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So I'm just late for the party.
No worries.
The simplest things are always the best.
Yes, exactly.
What are some of the things we have covered?
So far we've covered smart narratives, and we've gone over the search button. So we haven't done too much yet. So those have been our two big wins for I think this month's release.
I guess from a reporting perspective, again, the totals for stacked visuals, that's really cool. Again, another simple update, but it saves us from doing all of the different workarounds.
Yes.
Yeah. I always love functions that make my blogs obsolete, like respecting layers. So love the fact that there's a new maintain layer order, right? Can't wait to play around with that one where no matter what you did, if you had a table visual or some visual that was behind a shape, it would always pop forward. So it'll be kind of interesting to play around with, what the possibilities are there for layering things. But that makes that whole process a lot easier rather than using bookmarks for sure.
Well, and not only that though, I mean, layering is very important, especially when you want to put two visuals on top of each other for interactivity, right? So I think that layering thing is going to be very critical as we rethink how we're building reports now.
Yep. Yeah. And earlier this summer, I figured out kind of a way to use grouping to do that, but that's also not something anybody would think to do. So just like you met, brought up making videos and stuff obsolete is I had something that was actually working. It did achieve the effect perfectly of keeping something behind instead of popping up if you layer things. But it's nice that now, there's just a toggle, very easy toggle, and yep, it will stay in the background. I've been wanting that for years, and I'm so happy this finally just built into it.
Yeah, totally agree with that, because indeed I always use the grouping to avoid things to show up in front. So.
Yep.
Has anyone used the? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just thinking about it'll be interesting to see, to your point, I think, Mike, the combination of visuals, right? Because I think you've done one in the past where it's like a half a donut where you could put different elements within that and it would still maintain the right layering. But I think this definitely has a lot of interesting points that I'll be exploring related to can you merge different visuals together to get a different output. And maybe this was all driven maybe from Miguel Myers, right? Who started doing that? I'm gonna throw 4 different visuals and make them kind of componentized based on the 6 tables behind the background. But it'll be fun to play around with that stuff for sure.
Then you have to be careful about all the performance issues.
Oh, yeah,
having, 4 or 5 different visuals.
Minor details.
Maybe a related topic to this as well. I think over the last weekend, Chris Webb released a blog post about that even squares and rounds and whatever on your canvas, even if not maintaining data, still take up performance.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe we should look at it from a different perspective as well, other than only being really creative with objects.
Totally agree.
I did a soft call out for you, Mike, when Chris Webb posted
Yeah.
that. Like, oh, this is really cool. There was
Mike already
there
talked
was
about
also,
this.
There was like an article like 8 months ago, basically, that talked about the same thing.
No.
But yeah, like it's exactly like it's to both of your articles. It's any object, whether or not it's an object or a text box, they all eat up rendering time because websites are single threaded, so they only load one visual at a time.
Yeah, and that totally makes sense. The similar one I did 100 text boxes. Again, no data attached. It was just a bunch of text boxes. And I found just by adding 100 text boxes, and he did way bit more than I did. 250 is what he did. But just adding 100 text boxes, I think I saw like a 400 to 800% increase in render time, just because it was taking so much to render all those extra objects. I want to go back to the point.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead, Daniel.
No, I was going to say it's hardly surprising. Like even the simplest control, as a huge web dev nerd, there's so many elements get thrown into the canvas when you add even the simplest thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So all that stuff stacks up.
And I would say that there's an interesting thing here, and again, here's a blog topic for you guys. Feel free to. This is kind of free reign now, but I'm putting it out in the open. But as you think about like the grouping and now the layer ordering things, I think there's a really interesting concept around here where we can actually build like a visual or a two-part visual, right? So one of the visuals I've built is like a donut chart with a very thin line, and then you put a number in the middle. That way I have like a clear indicator of like something of a percent. And then on top of that, you can actually put a button on top of those layers. So stack the button on top, and so then the entire visual becomes like a clickable thing, and then you can group it all together so they stay stacked. So that's a technique that I've been using for just making like a full visual a single click, because you don't technically get to click on top of a KPI card or the donut chart, and I don't want to select the data. Rather, I actually want to do an action or something else that's separate from that. Maybe you click the KPI and it takes you to a different page in the report. So if by layering those elements, you have the ability of adding like sneaky buttons that have no characteristics to them on top of your visuals, and can make other interactions that way as well.
I like the idea if you replace the donut chart for something better.
I was waiting for that.
That's good. That's good.
I actually really like.
How do you deal with discoverability of those buttons? Because you need to accidentally hover over before you see that's actually a button.
So there's I've been doing some interesting things with buttons. Is they're actually now my new favorite visual, because there's so many things you can do with them besides even having it as a button. But one thing they've added earlier this year is the ability to add for any effect, default, hover, and click, is you can add images, you can add GIFs. So one thing you could do, the default thing is, I've been playing around with doing a video on this, is adding one of those little, like animated sheens that kind of, it looks like it's like a light's kind of passing over a thing. So you could add a transparent GIF to the top of that say every 5 seconds is playing a GIF that kind of just makes the button wiggle or hover or does something to what it's overlaying to make it like, ooh, something moved over there. And then they go hover over it, and then they get a pop-up saying, if you click me, I go to here. Yeah. So I like GIFs are a great way to add those little kind of fun animations. Yeah, you have to make it, but I think there's a lot of potential for massive like artistic creativity to make it very like web page like.
All right, Reid, because you said it, because you talked about it, you have to blog it within like 24 hours now, or else someone's going to take it, man. So like you set the clock, man.
It's out in the public.
It's out in the public. You better make it happen. And we'll be happy to host your example PBIX file on our website. So let me know.
I do want to just make a quick mention. John White, who's going to be doing the Q&A, a guy in a cube, retweeted our tweet that we're doing this one. So like kudos to John for retweeting something that's on at the same time that we are. So like, I just wanted to give props to that.
Props to John. Excellent. That's awesome.
So what do we think about how cool is the new general availability of the metadata?
I can't even describe it.
Yeah.
So with the general availability of metadata, there's now a new external tool made by Davis Zhang. Have you guys seen that? Why are you guys laughing? You already know about it?
I thought you were going to plug yours.
We're going a different direction.
No. which you can get from my tool, but like he made a great tool too. So, so Davis Zhang has made a Dax formatter. So you can literally, because so the metadata, enhanced metadata format allows external tools to start manipulating what's happening at the tabular model object level. And to me, like, oh my gosh, we're just scratching the surface of what this is going to be. This is going to be phenomenal because we can create measures, we can update measures. And so Davis made this awesome visual external tool. And what you can do is you click the button and you say, do I want to update my measures and have them pre-formatted? And so he takes the measure, he runs it to SQL BI, does the pre-formatting, brings back the text, and drops the text pre-formatted from SQL BI back into your report. So you basically hit one button and it goes, zoop, and everything's nice and pretty, and all the formatting in your entire DAX thing has been formatted.
So this does it for all measures, like in mass, just at once?
So he has a timer set up on it. So he's detecting when the measures changed. So if you want to format all the measures in the last hour, you push a 1. So you hit run on it. It starts. It has a little window that prompts that says, "Hey, what's the time frame? How long do you want to check things?" And if you put the number 1, he goes back and looks at all the measures that changed in the last hour. He reformats them only.
Okay.
So you can do any number of hours you want, or you just hit 0 and it does the whole model all at once, which could be pretty helpful.
I played around with this. This one is awesome.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Provide a link to that if you can in the chat. Like I'm gonna install that when I get done with this call.
Well, actually, you should install the installer that lets you have the app. So that's the second tool. So sorry. So Business Ops, the Business Ops thing, I just released a new version of that on Tuesday. So that's out. Power BI Tips got that one out. And you can get Davis's Zhang's installation tool there. So if you install Business Ops, you can go ahead and add the external tool, and then it'll just be on your ribbon bar, and then you can just hit it till your heart's content. So I'm trying to centralize all the external tools. Daniel, Mark, whoever may have one, keep bringing them our way. We'll keep putting them in the installer. Not yet. Daniel, we're going to get you going on these things. These are the new hot thing right now.
Daniel has a very good idea, which you're working on.
Yeah, if I can get it to work. I think one of the coolest things would be if there's some potential to do things with the visual layer with the metadata. I don't think that's really something that's there yet. I've got lots of cool ideas about, you can pull things out, you can push things in around the measures and everything else. But what would be really, really cool is some external manipulation of the canvas.
Yes.
From an external tool.
100%.
And that is where I am exploring quite heavily at the minute. And I'm getting a little bit stuck here and there, but it's slow progress. But we'll see.
Let's keep in touch. I got a great installer that would be very helpful for your users to use that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Anybody else got anything interesting about it?
I really like one of the discussions we had some few days earlier about, let's say that we can manipulate the visual layer. There was some discussion going on about a dark mode where we could where we could pretty much on the fly change the theme that says in the Power BI file. If we could do that, that would be insane. I think. So
think of that, like that's a really great feature add. We've already moved into new features already. Come on, Microsoft, we're ready for the next feature. But to your point though, hot swapping an entire theme all in one shot, or a button that would let you change the theme in real time with the report would be very flexible for whatever report building you wanted to do. If you wanted to turn on grandpa mode and make all the fonts big, you could hit grandpa mode and it would all the font gets real large. Or if you want compact mode, you could then change that, or light mode or dark mode, and all that would be doing would be changing the theme, because you can adjust all the properties already with the theme today. In embedded, though, I would say this. So in Power BI embedded, you do have the ability of like real-time changing themes on reports today.
So you can,
Yeah, I was thinking, and actually looking at it right now as well. I believe that there was an option on dashboards in the service to go to high contrast mode or something.
Yep, that's using themes to do that, though. They're just doing all they're doing there is letting you contrast between a predefined theme that's already there for you.
Yeah. So that would be massive for accessibility as well, because I know there are the inbuilt accessibility themes in there, but if you make it a lot more obvious, then people could access them even easier. I guess that's all external tools is doing. It's just making things which you could access previously a lot more obvious to the end user.
Most definitely.
Absolutely.
And has anyone played with, I'm going to transition to another kind of desktop release item here, data point rectangle select for additional charts. Has anyone using the rectangle to select points yet? Has anybody played with that?
Yeah, I've played with it a little bit.
Yeah, I'm absolutely loving that thing. I actually did a video last week to kind of use it as a time scrubber, or just basically a time selection tool where you can have a small chart, compact it, and as you drill in and out, you can basically use that to select a ton of data points. And I think it's great. I was kind of wondering when it first came out, like, why aren't the combo charts in here? Line charts and column charts are in there. The combination of the two is excluded. So they finally included that. Oh. So at least it has a good core base set. The last one that I'm hoping they eventually add is the ribbon chart. I love that, and it's a stack column chart just with the cool extra metrics. So if they can add that, I think that's basically all of the visuals that I would expect to have it. The one that I had to play around with them is there really wasn't much documentation on which were available, but the ability to use the scatter plot, which you can have hundreds and hundreds of visuals, to be able to select clusters like that instantly to filter is super, super cool. I think that's, outside of the time elements, the scatter plot's probably the most useful feature for that, to be able to get those localized clusters.
How are you using it, Alice?
Yeah, I've just used it in the basic format because it's not really available in that many visuals yet. And I think it maxes out at 250 data points as well.
Okay.
The selection. But what I'd love to see it on is just the plain old map. I don't know how that would work with all the panning, but just to click and drag, like a bit like Mapbox, how you can do that lasso select.
Yeah.
That would be really useful.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I hadn't thought of like the map one, but similarly, it's almost like a scatter plot, but on a map. Yeah, exactly. That's cool.
That's kind of where my mind went initially when I thought about it. When I was thinking, like, reading, you're talking about all the visuals that need it. I definitely think that's a need for like a mapping type visual, or at least something that you can click and grab the lasso button and then you run your lasso around. I feel like most mapping functions have some level of lasso ability into it.
Exactly. Yeah. One other thing just to be aware of, if people are using it on a line chart, if you have a line chart with the markers, I think the way that it highlights the line chart is by adding markers. So it's not obvious what points are selected then if you've already got your markers on. So that was
interesting.
One thing I noticed when it came out. I haven't tested the new version to see if they've modified that, but that was how they highlighted the points.
Cool. Excellent.
What do we think about grouping all the different blocks in one?
Grouping all the different what?
Mobile, service, desktop, everything in one.
Oh, the blog now, the new blog?
Yeah.
I didn't read the other ones anyway, so I don't really care. I mean, it's nice that I can see it all together now.
Right? Maybe that's why.
I think that's
right?
why.
Like the main desktop had the most hits, and I love the fact that it's all in one scrollable place. Anybody on the nitty gritty? One connector I'm looking forward to is Azure Databricks. A lot of what we're doing relies on there's some chuckles on connecting directly to Spark. It'll be interesting to see whether or not this is just kind of an easy mode connection, or whether that there's some enhancements to performance around a lot of that, because we're doing a lot with that. So I'll be exploring that a lot more. But I love to see that there's still a lot of work on connectors and making things more accessible.
So I can comment a little bit on the Databricks. I don't know, just a touch on that very briefly. It does use Azure Active Directory, which is a big win. So if you're using Spark, you can't use Azure Active Directory. You're basically bound by a token and whatever's in Databricks. So I'm a super fan of Databricks. I think it's amazing. And stuff I'm hearing across the industry is a lot of companies are really interested in what Databricks can do and bring to the table. And this is, if you look at what Microsoft is doing in the model of like what they're doing for SQL, they're actually splitting a lot of their compute and their storage into two separate payable items that you're looking at now. So where SQL before, everything from a SQL context has been, I buy a SQL server, that server has storage and compute all built into it. If it doesn't go fast enough, or if I need more space, I got to buy a bigger machine. And this whole realm of like now big data science type stuff is separating those two things differently. And that's where SQL Data Warehouse kind of came from. And now you're seeing Synapse to do very similar things. So there's a lot of patterns that Databricks is doing and the big Hadoop or Spark world is happening, where a lot of other technologies are kind of being built in that space. I'm really excited for this is going to go. We're seeing substantial cost reductions moving away from SQL and building your EDW inside Spark, Databricks, and a lake. So there's actually there's a real monetary value for being able to do this kind of stuff, and I think Databricks is really going to be a good connector for the desktop. Sorry, that was on my soapbox here. I know a lot of other people don't play with Databricks as much as I do.
Well, with scalability, it made a nice bridge to the new premium stuff.
True. Yeah, talk to me about some of the new premium stuff that you heard about. This is probably another really hot topic.
Oh yes. And well, I really like. Before we start talking about premium per user, let's first have a chat about the scalability of premium. Auto scaling.
Yeah. So are you talking about like auto scaling?
Yep. What do we think about that?
I think it can be awesome, but I also think that I'll advise my customers to set up billing limits first thing they do, because it can probably give them some unwanted surprises. Yeah.
Well,
exactly. Yes. That's the first thing that I thought as well. That's a nice way to earn money.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if you think about it, there is a burst load to things, right? Because of poor management on your infrastructure, right? I mean, the reason you need these is everyone's refreshing all their ports and saying, keep my report up to date. And at midnight, everything starts refreshing. Right? The machines start taking over and start hitting everything really hard. And you have to be very diligent about scheduling times apart from each other. So you say, 12, 12:15, 12:30, 1 o'clock, 2 a.m. You actually have to be intentional about when these scheduled things are happening, because right now in the service, the default option is just do everything at midnight. So I think there's definitely a need there servicing there from this is okay, you want to refresh all your stuff at midnight? Great, no problem. We'll let you auto scale up to get the capacity that you need, and then can auto scale back down after you've loaded your data models. Because I think most of our pain points have been around, I'm refreshing the model and I'm not using incremental refresh, and it's just hammering the memory on the machine.
Yeah. But I think there was also something about the minimum time that you can scale up. I don't recall exactly what the time was. Let me look it up.
I think is it scale up or scale down? I think there's it needs a minimum of an hour or a time window that when after it spins up, it stays alive for a period of time until it officially can turn itself back off.
Exactly, and I thought that it was even 24 hours, honestly.
Yeah,
you're probably right. It's probably like 24 hours.
Yep.
I would like it to be an hour.
Your case is broken now, so if you want to do everything at 12 at night, then
it stays on all the time.
You can scale it down at 11 again.
Ramps back up. Like you said earlier, it's an easy way to make money.
I would absolutely agree. I think I'll have to dig more into it for sure, but this would be one of those use cases, because we use premium on every level, right? Like we have P1 SKUs and a whole bunch of different A SKUs for external embedding and things like that. Is periodically we have failures of a data set because we're pushing the memory thresholds. And if I have an auto scale that automatically bumps that up, if I don't have the appropriate logging or messaging, to understand that that's happening, I'm just infinitely going to scale up forever, because that same data set's going to fail every night and automatically bump into the next tier, where I'm just paying for the next tier indefinitely. And that would be, that's one of the things I'm hyper aware of, ensuring that if I, enable the auto scale, under what conditions do I know it's happening, because it is for a 24-hour period, right? It's not where I'm scaling up for a limited period of time and then bringing down. I get the convenience of not having something manually fail or fail midnight, and then it's going to take a couple hours to kick in. So I love it. I love the fact that more enablement is better, but this one comes with a definite kind of warning flag around it to make sure that you can figure it out. But yeah. We'll say yellow flag.
Yellow
right?
flag. Yeah.
They're also mentioning the fact that they're going to improve tenant admin experiences, making sure that you can actually have a better overview of what's happening on your tenant, because that's one of the things they'll have to invest in as well as a tenant admin. They need to be aware of what's happening on their tenants. Yeah. And they need to be aware of when their spikes are going to happen. And if they can get some more tools for that, what they're mentioning in the blog, I think it'll be a very good combination of both, because you'll definitely need that auto scale at some point. It's just trying to reduce it to make sure that you can actually fit everything into the P SKU or the A SKU that you have, that will be a very big deal.
I want to see more details around this whole thing. I think there's I think there's a lot more information I need before I can really stand behind it and turn it on. There may be some gotchas that I need to look at. I want to see the exceptions list. What is the exception list that we got to look at here?
Yeah. Well, it's worth rewatching the recording of the Ignite session as well. If you put on your snake eyes, you can spot some of the new metrics already on the screen, like CPU utilization.
Yep.
That will definitely help. And for me, it's a really good thing as well for big enterprises where they want to do cross-charging, for example, based on the actual utilization of the premium capacity.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Because currently you cannot really do that. At least we didn't find a way to properly do it. And I think CPU utilization will help there to get a better understanding who's consuming the premium capacity.
So I'm putting the link right now in the YouTube chat window. So that's out there now for the Ignite session that they're talking about. Advancing Power BI Premium for the enterprise analytics market and beyond. We're talking about the beyond part right now.
I think all up, I'm very happy to see that there's continued work being done in the enterprise and premium levels, right? Like they've enhanced the reporting, the visibility into things, and this is directionally just really good to see that there's a lot of activity around how people are kind of scaling up Power BI in their orgs, and hopefully this just adds to the lexicon of different ways we can manage and administer and hopefully simplify that experience as we're deploying doing larger deployments with it. So
excellent.
Yeah. Talking about deployments, you are nice bridges this evening.
And that's why I'm here for you.
Well, there was also an announcement about the deployment pipelines that reached general availability, but there was one thing that was really, really well hidden in this blog post.
I would agree with this. I know where you're going with it. Do it. Do it. I'm excited about this one.
Automation and Azure Devops integration.
Yay, DevOps! We've needed that forever.
I couldn't be more excited when I saw this.
Same. Very much the same approach. That was it was literally like a one-liner. Like it was like a, oh, and by the way, we're adding this all into Azure DevOps. All right, moving on.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, it's in the what's coming up section.
True.
Right.
True.
Okay. Yeah.
But the fact that they're thinking about it, I think this has been a question. I think literally since the first pipeline. I mean, even before pipelines came out. They're like, I want to shovel this stuff in DevOps. I can't. The sizes are too large. How do I do this? We need a better way of promoting content throughout our system. Pipelines are a great idea, and I like the fact that they're noting they're going to make it for data flows. Data flows is also quite painful. Yeah. If you've built one in QA and you want to build another one in production, good luck getting it through there. It's going to be hopeful. But yeah, it's really, really excited to see they're announcing. I feel like this is going the right direction.
Oh yes, and especially with bigger deployments, like you want to deploy your data platform and at the same time release some Power BI reports where everything connects together. This will be a huge thing.
Totally agree. Has anyone played with pipelines at all and done pipeline development for their organizations?
Deployment pipelines, I've really appreciated that one. If that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, just the deployment pipelines are. That one.
Yeah, I think they're absolutely fantastic. I've had customers for almost since Power BI has come out. How do we do any kind of control from test development production? I hope that someday they trickle their way down to pro, kind of like with incremental refresh, but but I think it's, I got 6 customers on it immediately as soon as it came into preview over the summer. It's really nice to be able to have that splash page that kind of does the auto migration for you, automatically tells you if things are out of sync. Nice. The only kind of annoying thing is you do have to manage there's no way to migrate users and permissions between them. So that's something that has to be set up individually. And in some ways that makes sense because you will have very different audiences depending on the environment. But the simplicity of it, I think for customers to be able to do that without having to individually create their own workspaces, then hit publish 3 different times with the file on desktop is really, really convenient.
Just the fact that you can see it all in its line. Something else was here. Didn't they mention, again, keep me honest here, they said something about incremental refresh in pipelines. Did you read that one, Mark?
Yep.
What was the comment around incremental refresh in pipelines? I can't exactly remember off the top of my head.
Well, before it reached general availability, you couldn't deploy data sets that had incremental refresh configured, and now it fully supports incremental refresh.
And then it's not touching the partitions at this point. It's now letting you refresh just the model only.
Yep. So the fun thing is, if you really want to understand what they're doing on the back, it directly describes the need for premium in this case, and because they're just leveraging XML endpoints.
Nice.
Is there some form of ALM toolkit then running in the back end?
Yeah, kind of. They're using XML endpoints to do a kind of schema compare, and compare left to right, and then they just deploy the metadata and do not override partitions.
Which totally makes sense. I mean, that's the easiest, fastest way to deploy a new model change upstream.
Yep.
They must be doing some sort of detection when the model, like if you add a new column, I would imagine that if you add a new column in the meta schema or you change your M queries to load data, I would have to imagine they're going to do some detection like when you actually need to reload your data moving upstream, right?
Yeah. Well, now you can also just deploy something without directly needing to refresh it, so it will not be broken. So indeed, if you add a new column or a new table or whatever to your development, and you push this to the production workspace, everything still works, and you can just wait till your refresh that happens at night.
Yep.
That's a really good point.
And yes, you have to be a little bit careful there, because if you start moving relationships and things like that, it might still break.
You get some weird behavior.
Yeah. But
we all know never to remove your relationships.
Yeah.
We've never done that before, and like literally broken an entire report just because, nope, never done that one before.
Well, there are some things that have a really positive side of this, but you still have to be careful.
True.
One thing I'm really excited about is the premium per user.
Yes.
Just really, that's a massive game changer, especially for smaller organizations where premium is just unattainable, or even for the new organizations who are transitioning into Power BI and they want to play around with some of the premium features. Like I know working in the environmental industry where everyone's Excel based still, everyone wants all of their charts in PDF reports. The ability now, if we get some of our clients onto premium, you can have paginated reports. It's just a massive kind of stepping stone gateway.
Do me a favor, because I know some people are hearing this for the first time. I know this was literally announced like yesterday or something like that. I think it was yesterday they started putting out the blog post. Chris Finland just announced on today. So from what you understand, Alice, give me the quick level for people who have never heard of premium per user. Give me your high level understanding of what you're seeing premium per user is for people who've never even heard of it before. This is a new term.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess we've got Power BI Pro and Power BI Premium. Power BI Pro is pretty cheap. I think it's $10 US per user per month.
Yes.
Premium, I think it's something like, what is it, 5,000 US?
Oh, premium.
Yeah. Like
P1.
the actual premium, like kind of right now.
Yeah.
And then it's just kind of unattainable for smaller organizations who want to take advantage of those features.
Yes.
So premium per user, I think the licensing, the price isn't announced yet. I'm pretty sure it's actually free in preview, which is exciting. It allows you to have all of the premium features. So not all of them, actually. I'm just having a look at the blog now.
Yeah.
But you get the paginated reports, AI capabilities with cognitive services, advanced data flow, XMLA endpoints. So all the stuff that Mark and Mike were just chatting about with all the deployment pipelines.
Huge win.
All of your kind of managing large kind of data sets. I haven't really explored it too much. You get the increased refresh rate, so 48 times per day instead of 8 times per day. But for my industry, I think the paginated reports is a big one. So that means that you can have, my understanding is you can have kind of one report and you can export it, pixel perfect quality, lots of pages of PDF. So.
Yeah, and I think there's like a trifecta of really good things, right? You've got a model that holds all the data. You've got Excel, you've got Paginated Reports, and you have Power BI. I mean, those are like all your reporting needs are met by one of those three things. And I think this really helps the attainability of, again, those smaller organizations. I don't want to buy a whole P5 or P1 to get into $5,000 a month. I just want my 15 people that I'm going to be using the reports. They need to have all the things, right? And we need to be able to set printing reports and email things out. That premium per user, I think, makes a lot of sense there.
Yeah, one of the questions I did have. Oh, sorry, go for it.
No, there's one thing that's really something you have to look for in the way how sharing content will work with the premium per user.
This will be tricky, I think. Yeah, Alice, what were you going to say?
Definitely. One thing which I was thinking of when I was hearing premium, because I always associate premium with Power BI embedded, but it's not in premium per user, is it? It's different.
It's different. Yeah, I think these are. I think embedded doesn't necessarily. So the idea here, I think where they're going with this, and again, I'm kind of reading between the lines here, or some tea leaves on the tea. I think if you build stuff in the premium per user space, right? I don't think you're going to be able to go share all that content with like a paginated report to a pro user, right? I could build it as a premium per user. I, as a premium user, could premium pro or premium per user, whatever they're calling it, that would allow me to use it. But if I can't go give it to a pro user and say, hey, go look at my paginated report, they don't have access, therefore they couldn't get to it. So I think there's going to be some new gates that we're going to be looking at for like who can access what content, which just means we'll have to consult on that as well and help organizations figure out where's the best point for them.
They make that really easy on the blog, though. I mean, that is one of the key. Yeah, the key points is, sharing content, who can see what, like spend some time in there to understand like dynamically within your organization where this fits in. I'm honestly shocked that Matt Allington didn't join today's call, because half of it would probably been this conversation as strongly as he's felt about that small business. I think this opens a huge door for them in terms of capability. So I'm extremely excited about the different methods that this would open, whereas to your point, Alice, like there's a $10 per user per month to 5,000 in a P1 for some of those features. I think this just means really good things for a lot of organizations that want those features that aren't willing to put out that kind of money yet.
If we look at functionality that it has to offer, there are a few things that the premium per user doesn't have. And there's one thing that is slightly different, which is the model size limit. Do we foresee any issues in that? With the premium per user, the model size limit is 100 gigabytes and per capacity is 400 gigabytes. Honestly, I haven't ever been close to that limit. But
I was about to ask, do you have models
I don't think it's going to be an issue for more than like 0.01% of people. I've still yet to work with I've had like a 40 or 50 gigabyte model. I've never hit the 100 gigabyte limit yet. And I think people who have over 400 gigabytes are probably people who are going to be using like a full-on premium capacity in the first place, usually like very large enterprise clients.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Benny, I'm curious your thoughts on some of this, because you're kind of more of like the admin guy looking at it from the the enterprise perspective. I'm seeing a vision here where I can put on my premium per users in like a dev and a QA workspace, and then I can take content and move that over to production, where I can dedicate a premium capacity just for that one area. I feel like this saves me a lot of costs while I'm developing the report versus when I'm going live with a report. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it'll all depend on why and how they're using premium right now. Is it just because the fact that they have 500 people that need to be able to consume reports, or is it the fact that they need all of those capabilities and they're actually heavily using those? So I think for the fact that you're referring to, if you actually have people that are actively using those AI capabilities, data flows, those kind of things, I think it can make more sense to go ahead and offload those kind of things outside of your capacity and keep the capacity itself available for whatever you're going to do with data sets. But it's going to be very interesting to figure out some ways of working with this and to make some recommendations on it for customers.
Next month, I look forward to having a full list of recommendations from Benny.
Who's coming up with the chart, right? The threshold where it makes sense and where it doesn't.
What's the tipping point?
There's just one thing that crossed my mind that can be really interesting. If you combine the deployment pipelines with the premium per user licensing.
That's what I was thinking. That's where I was going with this.
So you don't want to put all your development workspaces on your premium capacity, on your P SKU or A SKU, because that will just consume some memory. So what about having all your developers with a premium per user license?
Yes.
Where they develop on a development workspace, but if they publish it using deployment pipelines to production,
yes,
it will hit an A or P SKU capacity.
That's exactly where I was going with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and I think that was even mentioned like in the blog a little bit, is like there's a way to kind of segment out if you need across 100 workspaces premium features, but you don't want to put them all onto your actual premium capacity. You can segment them out to like the development and test for a lot of developers into their per user premium capacities over in one side, and that will save you a lot of the resources out of the actual whatever SKU premium capacity you have.
Yeah, and nowadays you could decide, and what I'm advising in some customers is do your development workspaces on an A SKU that you can switch off at night, and your production in a P SKU.
Same thing I do. It makes a lot of sense. Turn on, turn off. I love those. Man, I love the A SKU. It's like my favorite SKU. I don't have to go to the Office 365 admin and beg for money to go get me a SKU at the EM or P level.
There you go.
And then you just build a flow in Power Automate that you can enable it and disable it on your phone.
Boom, done.
Yeah, the thing is as well, you're talking about doing that, which is an excellent way of working. But I also have customers that are literally scared of spinning and spinning up an ESQ and despinning it because they have no idea what it's talking about, and they also don't want to rely on some external people to build that for them. So I also think that the PPU licensing model will be excellent for them because they can have a much more economically viable thing when they're not that comfortable themselves to go fiddle about with ASQs.
Yeah, I for someone that does that every day, there's no problem scaling up and scaling down.
Yeah, but it's
no. I'm not in any way
anyway.
suggesting you're right. I'm just saying, like, if anybody knows, like, if you're worried about it, don't. It works. It's really efficient.
Yeah, I do it as well.
Getting people like onto these new features, and if they're not comfortable with it, like I totally agree with what Benny's saying.
Yep.
You just want to have that. You want to purchase a license, not even think about it. You forget about it. You're not worried to get the bill at the end of the month.
I think it's an exploratory thing too, though. I mean, to your point, I think Benny makes a great point, though. Even if I just want to know, like, how hard is it to work with a paginated report? Can I do that off of a Power BI data set? How will it work? What will it function like? I think there's a lot of viability here. Like, I got a proof of concept, what we're going to do, and I don't have any really easy way of doing that without turning on the ASQ. And then again, do I forget to turn it off? Will my boss hate me after I leave an ASQ on all month? Like, what will happen? But to this point, it says saying yes, your boss would hate you. But those are the kind of questions as we're trying to keep costs low, or we're just trying to discover what will work for our organization. I think this is a great exploratory tool, and you can just when you're done with it, turn it off if you don't need it. Cool. Well, guys, we have talked for a full hour. I think this has been really good. I appreciate your time. I hope it's gone as fast for you as it has for me. I really appreciate your time for today. We'll do it again next month, hopefully around the second day of the month. Everyone, thank you very much for attending. I'll edit the video down a little bit on YouTube here, and we'll get it published out, and we can share links later on. So, guys, thank you very much. It was super fun. I love talking with you other MVPs. You know so much more than I do about all this stuff. It's super fun to kind of keep talking about this with you. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your week and a good rest of your week at Insight. Or Ignite, sorry. Ignite.
Data Insight. Yes.
Data Insight.
Good to talk to you guys.
Wrong event.
Cheers,
Cheers, guys.
See you later.
Thanks very much, everybody. Cheers.